Hello and welcome to the Monroe Method Clancast. I am Jason Monroe. This is episode 172. Before I get into this, I am going to ask a small favour. I have not done this for a while, but I'm just sitting looking at Spotify on my computer. I can see that the show, it is a show, the podcast, whatever, has 117 5-star ratings. That is mega because it is ridiculously difficult to get people to give anything a rating. So that's like the amount of people that must have listened to the podcast for 117 of them to give it a rating. That's crazy. However, if you have not yet rated the podcast, can you just go into the show? There's like 3 dots and just go to rate show. That's it. It'll take you 2 seconds, cost nothing. And who knows, one day I might break into the chart for whatever reason. But yeah, I don't know what it does, but it's just cool. Right. Today we are talking about something that I see quite a lot in the work that I do, but I want to normalize it. I want you to know that it's not just happening to you. I mean, it doesn't mean that it's a good thing that it happens, but it's good to know that it's not just you, right? I think one of the worst things is thinking that we fall into this comparison trap, don't we? Like, how come they can do it? How did they manage it and I can't? How can other people do this and I can't do it? You're not alone. There are plenty of things that other people are doing that you're not, or that you are, I should say. So, this is coming off the back of a live chat that I recorded for everyone, live on Tuesday night, where we spoke about how progress quietly slips, and how to catch it early. So this is me drawing on like years of experience working with many people, and the types of things that I see, right? So I think we can say it. Most people do not just wake up and quit. I mean, they might eventually get to that point, but you don't go from doing great to the next day going, fuck it, I don't want to do this anymore. So it's never usually a dramatic, instantaneous thing. They just slowly ease off. There's no dramatic, I'm done, no final blowout, no big announcement. It's just a series of small changes that eventually get you to a point where you just get so annoyed that you give up, right? And it starts small changes. I'm going to talk a little bit tracking because that's what I deal with a lot. Your tracking starts to get a little bit looser. You stop weighing things that you used to. You start guessing and eyeballing things more. Nothing that really feels serious because you've done great. You've been making great progress. You've been used to seeing the scales come down. What does it matter if we let a little thing slip here and a little thing slip there? Until 6 weeks have gone by and you're looking down at the scale once again going, what the hell is going on? That's what I talked about on Tuesday night. Because one of the easiest things in the world to do is take your progress for granted. I work with many people where every check-in feels routine. £2 down, another £2 down, 1.9, 1.8, 2.2. Like, it just keeps going and going. Nice and steady. Calories are great. Their activity's great. They're balancing their diet well. They feel wonderful. And it almost becomes boringly predictable. And then one check-in, it's £1. And then 2 weeks later, it's £0.5. And then 2 weeks later, it's nothing. And then maybe if we let it run that far, 2 weeks after that, the scale maybe goes in the opposite direction. And the initial reaction is always, these calories aren't working anymore. We need to change the numbers, right? But calories do not just stop working. You cannot lose, what did I count up there? You can't lose £10 over 10 weeks and then all of a sudden not lose anything. The body just does not work like that. It almost always comes down to something changing. So your activity level's still the same. Nothing's changed there. So the calories should still be working, but they're not. So what I find is that when things are going really well, people can often stop protecting the habits that made them go well, right? They start to relax a little. They might eat the kids' leftovers, grab a few sweets, nibble at some cheese when they're cooking, take a couple of crisps off someone else's plate, help themselves to a skinny bar thinking, oh, it's only a few calories, it won't really matter. And on their own, these things should be nothing, but they add up. And this is the part that people really struggle with hearing, because when you are losing a pound a week or 2 pounds a fortnight, that is not luck, right? It is not magic. It's not your body finally deciding it wants to work with you. It was you. Now, the reason that I'm saying that people often don't like hearing this is because when you have to take responsibility for your progress, there's another edge to that sword, because it also means you then have to take responsibility for your lack of progress. So when you are consistently losing weight, and this is why I repeat this all the time when I'm doing check-ins. When I look at something and I see somebody losing weight consistently, I always make sure, like, this is happening, this part over here is happening because of this part over here. All the tracking that you're doing, all these wonderful things that you're saying, your weight is coming down as a result of all of that, because you were tracking properly. You were managing your habits. You're working on the things that contribute to your weight going up the way. You're stopping eating when you start to feel full. You're leaving food on the plate. You're not eating when you're not hungry. You're questioning whether you're stressed or tired or bored or lonely before you make a food choice. All of that stuff, that's why the scale was moving, right? The scale was just the reaction to the things that you were doing. Many of you listening to this have come from slimming club backgrounds where the language was, I was 100% on plan, right? The plan always gets the credit. And they create this blame culture where it's like, oh, you've lost weight, you must have been 100% on plan. Oh, you've had a gain, let's find out what you did wrong. And it creates this idea that, people that are losing weight are doing that because of the plan. People who aren't following the plan. And when your weight does come down, it feels like you followed the rules well enough. And when it goes up, it feels like you messed up. You live in a world where you're never truly owning the process. And if you don't fully own the progress, then you won't protect it, because it's always going to ever feel temporary. It's always, and you're not to blame for this. You have a history of making progress and then losing your results. It feels like it's something that might disappear anyway. And so we loosen things slightly. And because the change is small, you don't notice it right away. I see this all the time. 12 to 16 weeks of textbook progress. Life is fairly calm. It's not Christmas, it's not summer holidays, it's not half terms, it's not Easter. A 12 to 16 week period of textbook 1.9, 2.1, 2 pounds, every fortnight. Life's fairly calm. There's no birthdays, no holidays, no weekends away. And that person loses 15, 20 pounds. And then life might get busier. Maybe work stresses ramp up. Maybe the kids are off school. Maybe the weekends are busier. Maybe it's a month where there's lots of birthdays in the house. I'll look at that person's tracking, and their tracking will look exactly the same. The calories are all still around the same. Their steps are still similar if they're tracking steps. They've not had a dramatic change to their activity level, but their weight has stalled. Initially, it wasn't a big deal because that can happen sometimes, even over a couple of weeks. But then it happened over 4 weeks. And again, okay, let's ride this out and see what happens. But then we get to the 6th week. And all of a sudden, tracking that was leading to consistent weekly or fortnightly progress is all of a sudden leading to nothing. And when we actually talk about it properly, it's never anything dramatic. It's all very casual. A few more bites, some extra nibbles, a few more evenings that are getting stretched on a bit longer than they should, a little bit more guessing, a little bit, I'll add that later on. Nobody's trying to cheat, because ultimately, the only person who gets cheated is yourself, right? You miss out on the results. Nobody's trying to cheat. Nobody's trying to pretend. It's just human nature. And when they finally notice the scale hasn't moved for a while, they panic. They want to cut their calories. They want to do more steps. They want something to blame. They want to point the finger at something. They'll maybe start repeating the old stories. Oh, this always happens. You always do this. You always get so far and then it just stops, or you hit a plateau, or they think that something's broken. Instead of asking the much simpler question, what have I stopped doing? What was I doing before that lost me that 15 to 20 pounds over those 15 to 20 weeks that I'm not doing now? That question alone solves the vast majority of things. If progress slows, it's not because of extremes, so we don't need to go extreme. We just need an honest audit. Am I still weighing things? Am I tracking everything, or have I loosened it to most things? And I don't think anybody has to track everything. However, there are times when it starts to cause a problem, right? But, I don't expect people to be 100% with tracking. I love the idea of people being able to loosely track and, fairly accurately track, but still get a result. But there are occasions where it doesn't work out. So people do have to be a bit more accurate for a while. Am I finishing food that I used to leave? Have I started, one that came up recently was that they had initially been weighing out like tablespoons of olive oil and things, and they've just gone back to freehanding it. And I said, well, what to do is, next time you freehand it, put the pan on the scale and zero the scale. Freehand the oil into the scale. How much more are you using? Because the thing is, we will very often get lured into filling the bottom of a pan with oil. Put a tablespoon in, it does not fill the bottom. Do it by hand. It's almost as if you're pulled towards making sure that there's plenty of oil in there. And that's just one example, right? It's not all down to that. We underestimate lots of things: oil, snacks, bite, sauces. There are people who put mayonnaise on every plate, not realizing the calories involved. And if you go back to doing that freehand instead of weighing out like a little tub or a little portion, the calories can jump up very quickly. I've told you this story many times before of the client I had who was an absolute rock star with her tracking. Now, she didn't have a problem where her progress tapered off. She was just not making the progress that she should have been. £0.5 pound a week. And like I said, tracking like a rock star and losing £0.5 pound a week. And I could not fathom it. We sat and had the discussions. We spoke about accuracy and oils and takeaways and are you eating out a lot? Are you guessing a lot? And I eventually landed on hot drinks, thinking, oh, maybe she's drinking like 4 or 5 lattes a day from Costa and they're like 200 and something calories each or whatever. And she's like, oh, I drink tea. And I'm like, oh, I'm not really looking for tea, even with milk and 2 or 25, 30 calories a cup. And I was like, okay, well, how do you take your tea? How many cups are you drinking? Oh, I have milk and 2 and I'll have up to 10 cups a day. And I wasn't tracking it because I thought it just counted as hydration. It does count as hydration, but the calories also count. So immediately we found her £0.5 pound loss, her missing £0.5 pound loss. It was tied up in 250 to 300 calories worth of tea. And as soon as she became aware of that, she changed that habit. She reduced it. She scaled it back. She still drank tea. It just wasn't 10 cups a day. So it's, these things can sneak in from anywhere. And the thing is, that then means that it's not a dramatic fix. It's just a little fix. It's just a little thing that we need to change. And then it's just a case of tightening those things back up to the standard that you had when things were working. That's it. It's not perfection. It's just back to what you knew was working. What you were doing before wasn't perfect. You've just allowed things to slip a bit. And this is the important bit, right? When things are going well, you need to take credit for it, right? Because it's something that will help you in the future. Take full credit when things are going well. Because actually say it out loud. This is working because of what I am doing. I am the one that is making this happen. I am the one that is making these scales come down. This is not down to any individual choice. This is down to the things that I am waking up and doing each day throughout the day, weekdays and weekends. This is working because of me, not because of luck, not because of calories, not because my chakras are aligned or Jupiter's in retrograde, because of you and your behavior. Because when you take credit for it, you can then protect it. Because when you take credit for it coming down, you can also take the responsibility for doing something else. And when you realize that and again, this comes back to the whole Slimming World Weight Watchers thing, where you feel like your results are out of your control. You feel like everything's happening on a hope and a dream, crossing your fingers and praying that the scales are going to come down. This is where a lot of this comes from. You've spent so long feeling like your results and your weight are out of your control that you don't take enough credit for it. You don't take enough responsibility for it. That then stops, when things aren't working, you go, okay, well, what's changed? Rather than, oh, it'll be fine, it'll sort itself out. Most people don't struggle because they can't do this, right? They struggle because it stops them from noticing these small changes, the small slide early enough. So what can I leave you with from this brief episode? Make sure you are taking full ownership of your results, right? But again, there's a caveat to this. If you're not working with me, then you'll have different ideas of timescale, like if you're on the outside of the Monroe method. But just understand that we don't need to be reacting across a week. We don't even need to be reacting across a fortnight or 3 weeks. If we're getting to 4, 5, 6 weeks and things are still not doing what they should be, then there's a problem and something needs to change. But yeah, take responsibility for your weight going in any direction. Because then it's, when things are starting to slip, we're not just hoping that it's going to get better. We're actively doing something about it. We're using logical thinking and coming back to the problem and saying, right, that was working perfectly fine before. Why is it suddenly not working now? What am I doing differently? Where am I getting more lax? And that way you can stop these things from drifting a little bit quicker. And, keep the progress going instead of because the thing is, you can allow that to get to a point where you're making progress, then you're making less, then it levels out. And then if that goes on long enough, it will start to go back up the way. We don't want that to happen. Catch it soon, make the adjustment, protect your progress, keep it going. Until next time.